everyone to the March version of the Johnston County Planning Board. We appreciate you all being here this evening. As is our custom, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask Mr. Little to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I did want to take a moment before we begin our agenda to make a special recognition of Mr. Commissioner Tony Braswell, who passed away on March 9th. Many of you probably know that, but just in case you didn't. He served 18 years as county commissioner, and including a lot of other community service activities that he undertook. He was also a former member of the planning board. There were many months where he was the liaison between the county commissioners and this board, and I can't remember anyone that was ever more complimentary or supportive of this board than him. So I think I can absolutely speak for the entire board when we send our best wishes and prayers to his family during this difficult time, and the county is certainly a better place for his service. So he will certainly be missed. Number 2 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 20th planning board meeting.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I heard a motion to approve by Ms. Holmes, a second by Mr. Little. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next on our agenda are subdivisions. I will remind everyone that the majority of land in Johnston County is zoned agricultural residential, which means you can build houses on it or you can farm it. So it's not the purview of this board to determine whether a subdivision is appropriate for any given location, but only that the subdivision is designed in accordance with our codes and ordinances. So if you are going to speak as it relates to a subdivision, we please ask that you give competent and relevant testimony. We do have a very full agenda tonight, and a lot of people here that wish to speak, so I will please ask that you be cognizant of time when you are giving your comments relative to any of the subdivisions, or actually any of the cases this evening, so that we can get through this agenda in a timely manner. But we certainly appreciate you taking the time to come out tonight, and want to give you the opportunity to speak if you desire. As these are quasi-judicial hearings for subdivisions, we will need to ask that anyone that wishes to speak relative to a subdivision, whether it's for or against, or even if you just have questions, that you please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and this is your solemn affirmation?
I do.
Thank you. I will note that there are 2 subdivisions on our agenda this evening that have asked to be tabled until our next meeting, which will be April 16th. Those are the Gammon Tract and the Turlington Tract. So if you're here for the Gammon Tract, which is on Old Sanders Road, or the Turlington Tract on Benson Hardy Road, those cases will not be heard tonight, assuming we get a motion to table, and they will be heard on the 16th. But I do need a motion to table those until the 16th, please.
I make a motion to table those to the 16th, the Gammon Tract and the Turlington Tract.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Little and a second by Ms. Holmes. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those are tabled until, again, April 16th. We'll give them a moment to slide out. All right, we'll begin this evening with our first subdivision, CF Property Management.
Yes, sir. Owner and developer are the same, CF Property Management. Surveyor is Alzie Gilbert. Location is 1591 Gordon Road in the Clayton Township. It's served by the Clayton Rescue Squad. It's 2.01 acres, 2 lots proposed. Johnston County Public Water, individual septic. Traffic count for Gordon Road is not available. This portion of Gordon Road does not appear on the Comprehensive Transportation Plan as needing improvement. In regards to direct driveway access onto Gordon Road, major subdivisions to be located on a local road shall be designed that there shall be no more than one direct residential driveway connection per 500 feet along the same side of a local road unless it can be demonstrated that the proposed subdivision cannot be physically designed, that no reasonable alternative exists, or it would create an unreasonable hardship without a corresponding public benefit to prohibit individual driveway access onto the local road. Also from the Johnston County Land Design Manual, developments with creating four or more lots from a parent tract where no easement exists and where the parent tracts have direct road frontage and easement shall not be allowed. The development must dedicate a right-of-way meeting the requirements of this section. A waiver may be allowed if determined by the planning board that in pursuit of this section a hardship is created upon the property that provides no benefit to the safety, welfare, and quality of life to the public.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Thank you. Who'd like to be heard on behalf of CF Property Management? How you doing, sir?
Me, Alston Gilbert, 442.5 East Main Street, Clayton, North Carolina. Can you pull up the aerial right quick, Cameron? What we had here was basically a non-conforming mobile home park. He's taken and already built two. He's building two houses on two of the lots down here where the two trailers are. And there was three on this one that we're subdividing hopefully tonight. And there's 4 driveways. We're only going to do one driveway, get rid of the other 4, and try and put it as close. And I can scoot that way a little bit to make it a little further away if I need to. I'd rather do one right on the property line. The driveway for the second lot here where you see the number 2 at is all the way to the left due to the septic tank. And if they build it the way my plot plan was, that's all I got to say about that. You're talking about telling the truth. My plot plan shows for it to be all the way to the left due to the septic field and all. So we're just doing 2 lots, getting rid of the 3, and they might have already got rid of the 3 trailers. I have not been out there since I submitted this stuff. And just doing the 2 lots and 1 driveway. And that's about as good as I can do, and the track's only about that deep. So it's not like I've got enough room to do a lot of turnarounds and stuff.
So are you using the existing driveways that are on the site map, the gravel and the gravel, or are you going to put?
We'll probably go right there to the center. I'd love to put one on the property line. That's your call. That's up to the planning board. That second driveway on the triangle track, I call it, is about 425 foot to the next driveway down on this one. So I can go that way, or I can put a shared driveway between the 2 where the property line is. That's clearly up to you guys.
Austin, how many trailers were out there before?
I think it was 5.
Yeah.
I'm counting.
4 or 5.
And so he's doing something to help out a lot, and not try and be too greedy with it.
For lots on the bottom 2 lots, where's the driveways for those? Is that a shared for the?
It's not a shared, there's 2
Okay,
separate
there's 2 separate
driveways.
driveways.
Yeah, right there together. And the problem with those 2 lots is you see the back's wet, so the septics are in front of the house.
Yep.
And same for the 3rd lot, the septic is gonna have to go up front, but it can go on this side and not affect the driveway.
The circular drive's coming out.
It's got to go. If I want to get it approved, it's got to go.
Other questions? Thanks, sir. Anyone else like to speak as it relates to CF Property Management? All right, we'll bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendation was denial due to the less than 500 feet of driveway separation and lack of dedicated right-of-way meeting the Johnston County standards for major subdivision. DOT did remark that as long as there was 100 feet of driveway separation between them, they were okay with it.
I make a motion for approval based on the shared driveway that was discussed earlier and the removal of the circular driveway as shown on the plan.
Shared-
And I recommend that based on, it is a very shallow lot. I mean, at the most it's 311 feet and it keeps going shallower as you go to the north, so that's my premise.
So
You want the shared driveway going down the property line?
Yes.
Okay. I second.
all right, motion to approval with the condition of the shared driveway on the property line and the removal of the circular driveway. By Mr. Little, second by Ms. Holmes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Yes, sir. Ricky Norris track.
Sorry.
You fine? Take time.
Okay, Ricky Norris track, owner is Ricky Norris, developer Steelbridge Crossing LLC, surveyors Dalton Engineering and Associates. Its location is Strickland's Crossroads Road, just west of Hannah Creek Road in the Banner Township, served by Banner Fire and Benson Rescue. It is 16.31 acres, 18 lots, being proposed. Johnston County Public Water individual septic. Traffic count for Strickland's Crossroads Road was 1,400 vehicles per day, but that was in 2021 was the last reported count. This portion of Strickland's Crossroads Road does not appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as needing improvement. A reverse frontage buffer will be required for lots backing up to Strickland Crossroads Road.
Questions, staff? Thank you, sir. Who'd like to be heard on behalf of the Ricky Norris tract?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. My name is Jonathan Barnes. I'm employed at Dalton Engineering and Associates. Our office is located at 446 East Main Street, Clayton, North Carolina. We are assisting the developer with the subdivision application for the Ricky Norris tract. It's a little more conventional subdivision design. Just a couple brief facts about the layout. Street is being proposed to be petitioned by NCDOT, maintained by DOT once the occupancy rates apply within the subdivision. We do feel comfortable with the 18-lot layout based on the preliminary soils evaluation. I believe we are showing the mailbox kiosk area within the interior of the subdivision layout. But anyway, here tonight to help answer any questions that I can.
Is there any buffer planned between lot 15 and the backs of 16, 17, and 18? Because all three of those backyards run right down the side of that lot.
Is there any, okay, let's see.
Or do you know if they're planning any type of natural barrier or fencing or anything like that?
You said 16, 17, and 18?
Yeah.
Right there at 15?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. To my knowledge, they're not planning on any type of internal landscape buffering.
Okay.
But lots 1, 18, 15 will because, right,
The
of being on,
reverse frontage.
for the reverse frontage.
Yep.
Okay.
Other question? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
John, I do have one, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Got
sorry.
one question.
You're good.
I know it's a little bit out of our preview. Is there adequate sight distance coming down the hill from the bridge at the entrance? Do you know what that is?
Mr. Little, I do not.
Okay.
I'm not aware what the actual site distance is.
And- And I'm
have that
thinking,
location.
I'm familiar with that site. I'm thinking it's probably okay, but I know DOT will require you to measure it. So
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Like, anyone else like to be heard as it relates to the Ricky Norris track? Thanks, sir. Give your name and address, please.
Good evening, William Samuel Godwin, attorney on behalf of
Bruce Adams.
Bruce Adams, and his address is 2865 Hannah Creek Road, and him and his wife own the 40-acre tract directly south of this parcel. They were noticed regarding this hearing, and they have a few concerns they would like to express. Due to the quasi-judicial nature of this, Mr. Adams is here, and he's prepared to be sworn and give testimony about it.
Good. Were you sworn in when we? Okay, very good. Thank you.
For convenience, if it's okay, we'll let the attorney sit at the table and use the mic, and Mr. Adams can testify from the podium.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could hand this. Is there a way to display?
There's a document where they can type it up. If you need that, do you need it on the screen?
Yeah, that would plat. I will need some pictures later after a middle.
Just give it to Todd and make sure you see it on the screen.
If you could give that to Mr. Adams. All right, Mr. Adams, could you state your name and age?
Bruce Adams, 73,
Your education?
high school.
And what is your occupation?
Well, I'm retired.
And what did
Work in
you?
the Department of Corrections.
All right.
Retired from real estate.
And, could you state your address?
2865 Hannah Creek Road.
I'd now like to turn to why we're here today regarding this proposal subdivision. How did you learn of this proposal?
What, about the subdivision?
Yes, sir.
Just through the mail, and that's all, doing all this measuring.
That's right. If you make sure you turn toward the microphones that we pick up on, you're on the street.
Okay.
And how long have you owned the adjacent tract?
I've had this, I was raised on this farm, and it was divided, and my sister got the farm, and the farm that I inherited, we traded out. And that's how, I've had it probably since 2015.
And do you go out on the property much?
Yes,
How frequently?
every day.
How recently have you? This week, last week?
I was out there today.
When you were out there, did you take photos of the property?
Yes, I've taken them.
Okay. You see the attached plat of proposal on that screen, or do you need it to be zoomed in any, or?
I can. Yes, I can see the bottom part of it. That's my property right there.
Where the cursor is to the bottom?
Because move it again, huh? Yeah, that's a waterway through there.
And looking at the map, could you tell, based on your personal experience, what is located on the portion of the proposed subdivision to the right that it still states Ricky Norris on that? Here.
All right, that's woodland.
And also, based on the topography of the map, could you see those lines in the upper right-hand corner?
Yes,
And those are elevation lines?
yes.
And what is located there?
There's a stream that goes through the area. It was, I don't know how long it's been there, and I didn't even know it was there, because it's on Ricky's property there. It comes down to my property, and it's probably about 4 foot wide, and it hooks up there, the Strickland's Crossroads Road. There's a tile that runs under the road, and then that ditch runs into it. It's fixed to handle a lot of water, but it runs it off on me, on the back side, right there on my side, and our stuff's kind of in bad shape. It takes it a while to go through it.
And so that's Strickland's Crossroads and Hannah Creek Road where they intersect in that corner up there?
Yeah, it's kind of to the left. It's at the end of that property, where that ditch comes to.
And if in the very right-hand corner, that where you see the kind of, if you can see those elevation lines,
Yeah.
what is that displaying?
No, right
That,
now.
would that be the bridge?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
the bridge are I-95, I-40 is right close by there.
And how did the road used to run before the bridge?
It was over to the right. It kind of runs straight through.
And when I-40 came through, was there anything that kind of did to the property because of the bridge?
Yeah, it changed everything.
Did increases in flooding occur?
Yes.
Because it's a rather uphill bridge from your property?
All right. And it's low. We're in kind of lowlands anyway. We have a water problem.
I have what has been marked as Respondents Exhibit 1 for identification.
Do you want that on the cam?
Yes, please, on the document camera.
Can you put that on the cam?
Line.
You see that photo, Mr. Adams?
Yes, that black line is where you got the property line is.
Now, how did you recognize that photo?
I took a picture.
And that was recently?
Yes.
And so that's the property line.
That's where they surveyed that, and it's out on the stop of their property line.
And so it fairly and accurately depicts the property line between the proposed subdivision tract and your piece of property.
Right.
And those woods are the wood line where the stream is
Yeah.
located.
Can you zoom in on that?
It's further down. It's on the other end, kind of, the stream is. That's the very front of it right there, kind of. That's the biggest field on this map. And the stream is on the other side of that wood.
I moved Respondent Exhibit 1 into evidence, and here's some copies for the board. If y'all would like a up close kind of view of it.
It'd be track already.
In this corner.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 and all.
You can hand that to Mr. Adams. Be able to be kind of visible on the document display.
This is this.
Can you zoom up? some,
Yeah.
Justin?
7. Okay.
It's further down
Zoom
this
it
one.
in.
That's what we'll.
There we go.
So, because if you look at the contour,
There we go. Thank you.
you see, and you can see.
Mr. Adams, do you recognize that map?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
Got it,
Well,
okay.
it run off today.
Now, was that map from the USDA?
Yes, it is.
And that's a aerial photograph of y'all's property and the surrounding areas?
Yes, it is.
And if you could try to zoom in a little bit more, but could you point out your track? Could you point out your track on that? Is it the number 24?
Number 24, and the field to the left is too, with that street through it.
And the number 25, that's where the proposed subdivision is supposed to go.
Right, uh-huh.
And the woods to the right is where you said there's a stream located.
Yeah, the stream comes through on the right side, right in there. Mhm.
And so where that marker was just at, that's where the stream kind of flows onto
Right.
your property.
Yes, it does.
Does it stop there?
Well, it slows down. I mean, it's not cleaned out.
Does
Up two of my line, it's been ditched sometime. I don't know when it was done. I didn't even know it. I got in there looking a while ago.
Does it, through those woods on your property, on the eastern kind of portion, as if this map is due north, is there another stream kind of flowing off of your property, a waterway?
Yes, well, you talking about stream one?
Yes.
Right on. Yes, it comes on through. There's a small water hole about halfway down. And a little bit further down, there's the corner this away. There's an entrance into that field right there. And there's a water hole there.
And where does ultimately all this water end up off your property?
It comes on further down. There's two fields on the right there. One field is mine, and the next field belongs to my neighbor. And it comes all around, and it ends up in the old King Stewart Pond.
And that's that pond?
Number 3.
And number 3. And what is that pond? What is that, a business?
There's a nursery out there now, but years ago, it's called King Stewart Pond.
And there's a bunch of little irrigation ponds kind of bordering I-40?
That might be greenhouses. I'm not for sure about that.
But all that water somehow is supposed to be to that source on number 3.
Right.
And I-40 is right beside it.
Yeah, I-40 is right side of it, and there's more water coming into it. There's water coming in there from everywhere.
Yeah. And that bridge that we mentioned previously, that's at the very top between E and F on that mountain, on that map.
Yeah,
Yeah. Where the elevation lines, we kind of pointed
Yeah.
out earlier. Okay. If you could hand this. And I asked that that map kind of be put to the side for further use later on. I have what has been marked as Respondent's Exhibit 3 for identification.
that's where the flow of water goes to that's woodland. That's right, this flow of water, and it's full when I went by there.
How do you recognize this photo?
Well, I took the picture. It's of that, that's that, ditching that was done through the woodland.
And that's in the woods between the two parcels. How recently was this photo?
I don't know, probably a week ago.
A week ago? I move Respondent's Exhibit 3 into evidence. Have been what is marked Respondent's Exhibit 4 into for identification. Mr. Adams, could you describe what this photo is?
That's the end of that stream up there. That's where it begins at, it's Strickland's Crossroads Road. And there's a tiling on this side of it. I've got a picture there.
And what purpose does this tiling serve?
It crosses Strickland's Crossroads Road. If there's any building done on the other side of that road, you won't get that much more water.
And the water kind of flows through that tiling?
And there's a ditch to the right that goes back around the north end. It comes out of the corner of that farm there.
And you took that photo as well
Yes, I did take it.
this week?
Yeah, I think I took them off last week, so.
I moved Respondents Exhibit 4 into evidence. And that's it.
That is the tiling right there that crosses the road.
And so that,
It's crosses the road. It's a big tile and it could handle all kinds of water from the other side of the road too.
Are you saying that goes under the road?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that on the Norris property, right there?
It's on the state road. I mean, it's a state road is what it is.
it's on
It's got a
the,
ditch that comes down the side of it from the north property.
it's in the wood line, where they kind of,
It was fixed where they could get the water off quick.
I moved Exhibit 5 into evidence. I have what has been marked as Exhibit 6 for identification. And so that stream that's on your property in the woods,
That's the one about halfway down on stream one.
okay? So it kind of flows ultimately, the first time into that pond on your property.
It's about halfway down from the woods to north.
Now, does it stop there?
No, it goes right on through. It goes to another pond.
I have what has been marked as Respondents Exhibit 7 for identification.
Okay, that's pond one. That's the one right next to the path where you enter the large field.
And that's what, from pond 2, the water then flows another into pond 1.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's located as well on your property.
Yes.
And the eastern portion kind of between the wood line and the road. Okay. And after that water flows, does it stop from pond 1?
No, it goes to the pure pond.
You can hand that.
It goes
Thank
kind
you.
of straight on through. Right there's the other side of the, where the water goes.
So that's from the pond, the water starting,
Yeah, that comes out of the tiling that we crossed to get to that, the field that we're farming.
I'm thinking that's it.
and that's how it flows all the way to the Stewart Pond.
Right.
It's right here.
Now, Mr. Adams, I want to turn your attention to the other side of the piece of property. So kind of on the back side where this subdivision will be and of your property, the 40-acre tract. I have what has been marked for Respondents Exhibit 9 for identification.
Okay, this is, stream 2. That's the picture of it.
And so that grass in this picture, what is that?
That's just, it's where, we've had, over the years, we've had tornadoes and stuff like that, and everything got tore up, and the trees got pushed back in, but, there's an entrance right there, just around, it's got a blind ditch that comes his way, that goes in the front of it, and this field is kind of just, the water flows that way. It flows into that, stream 2.
And is this tract near where this proposed subdivision would be?
Yes, that's it right there, where
Yeah.
where the green stuff is.
So the back side of the plat
Yeah,
of the subdivision is right there, I believe on,
that's the one on the big side field.
and right beside it is another waterway, correct?
Yes, this is the end of it. That's where it goes in at right there. That's where there's a blind ditch running into it and all the water goes in there.
And so that previous picture and where the entrance of that waterway is shown right there on exhibit, what has been
That's
marked.
the opposite side of it right there, the waterway.
And so where does this waterway go?
It runs into, it goes across that smallest field right down the middle. It goes through the middle of the two fields, and it goes to a ditch on the other side of the large field.
Does it stop there?
It goes back around to stream one and goes back to the King Steer Pond.
And what is this photo of?
That's the waterway from stream one where it leads, and the circle with the beaver dam.
And did the beavers just recently came, or they've been there for a while?
They're in and out, kind of. That's the first time I've seen it with the past week.
Did it give you problems?
It's got to be torn out.
And so that's the pond coming from stream 2, correct?
Well, that right there's the one coming from pond, the number 1 pond on stream 1. That's where it goes out towards the King Steer Pond.
And Mr. Adams, how do you recognize that photo?
That's pond 3.
Is that
The
the
pond that's on a ditch that goes around the largest field there.
and where does that flow ultimately to?
It runs in that stream where the beaver was at, and it goes back to the King Steer Pond.
So all of these ponds, waterways, streams that start from the wood line, go onto your property, ultimately flow across the street onto the Stewart Pond.
Right. It goes under the highway up to Hannah Creek Road.
And so there's 3 sources of water running through and then ultimately connecting through those woods. And those woods are directly behind where the proposed subdivision is, correct?
No, this is pond 3. That's more up there at the close to pond 1, where you go in the field at.
But on the plat that is being offered today, is the woods starting from the right of that proposed subdivision?
Yeah.
Which borders your woods? Respondent moves to admit exhibits, I believe it's 3 through 13 now. And could we publish the initial map that we first, the USDA map?
You want that back on the dock camera?
Yes, on the dock camera. The kind of ortho map, if,
It's the big one for us to.
They've also ordered some from Highway 52. That circles back around to the canal. I don't have a picture of that, but that goes to the Steer Pond.
If y'all could kind of zoom in a little bit more, I thank y'all for accommodating us. Mr. Adams, could you kind of tell the board where your house is in connection with the proposed site?
It's on the other side of Hannah Creek Road.
And it would be number 36 there?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So just kind of north of that Stewart's Pond nursery tract, and between that and I-40 and the new subdivision. Correct?
Yeah, the new subdivision's back to the left there.
Do you have insurance on your house?
Yes, I do. I have flood insurance.
And why did you take that out?
Well, it's been a few years ago. I can't remember what hurricane it was, but water come up to the steps to the house.
And how exactly high would that be?
Now, I've never seen it do it before. And it's,
Would you say these flooding issues have been increased in recent years?
yes. Our storms we have now are different than it rains different than it used to. It all comes at one time. When I was growing up, it might rain 2 or 3 days in a row like slow and, you know, not rain real hard, but it's not like that anymore. It comes like a flash flood.
And has that been since I-40 has been there?
Yes,
And you live downhill from the I-40 bridge,
yes.
and kind of similar to where the subdivision would be,
Mhm.
and similar to where your tract of land across the road is, and where those streams are,
Right.
and they flow downhill to the Stewart Pond. Have you done anything else to kind of remedy the flooding issues, such as digging ditches on your property?
No.
Do you think ultimately, based off your personal knowledge, if more water and was being channeled through there, that you would have to?
Yes, I do. I don't know where to go. I can't believe that pond can handle all that water. It's just,
And what are ultimately your main concerns if this subdivision were to be put in place?
my main concern too, where the water's gonna come off and, the subdivision's on my property on the left side and the right side. Cause that's the low side and water is gonna go down here. There needs to be something put there to flow that in. And then the water on the other side is gonna go out by the stream 1 right there. And, you know, it needs slowing down too.
Now, Mr. Newton, if you could bring that, the actual plat for consideration back to the screen. Thank y'all. So to kind of, finally bring it all together with the pictures, on the right side, that tract that says Ricky Norris would be where the woods are again. And do you see any kind of buffer on that plat between the wood line, your property, and the subdivision? You see any kind of wetland buffer?
It's real deep in there.
Do you see any indication of wetlands being delineated or
Well-
floodplains being shown?
No, I don't know what kind of land that is. It's wet. If it's not wetlands, it ought to be wetlands.
And to the right there, again, that's the elevation showing from the bridge of I-40. To the upper right of that picture, the cursor is.
Yeah.
And your tract is downhill from that.
All the water, when that part of the country, it's about got to cross my property. There's nowhere else for it to go. It'll go through those 2 streams, end up in that one stream and go to the pond.
Alrighty, that's everything for Mr. Adams. No further questions. If I could call Mr. Barnes up again.
Let's let the.
Can I have a question?
board-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
For on your tract of property, it's looking like there are 3 different fields that are being used for farmland, is that correct?
2.
Okay.
I have some more farmland, but it's a 6-acre field, and one of them's about 11-acre field, a little over 11 acres.
Okay. So those 2 fields, how is the farmer currently being able to access those 2 properties? Those those two fields? How's the
Right there
farm?
where that little arrow's at, there's a path through there.
So there is a path
There's
through.
a path right there
Okay.
that you can go back to the road I stay on. And there's a path up down the side of that woods right there,
Okay.
in a ditch there.
Okay.
And it runs down to that next stream too, and there's a tiling across it, and that's where we cross over to get into that field.
Okay. So both of those fields you have current access to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That was my concern.
Any other questions of the gentleman? Thank you, sir. Say you'd like to call another witness?
He'd like to cross-examine Mr. Barnes, I believe. And it's whatever the board's pleasure is, if there are other people that would like to speak with regards to the subdivision. I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback here. If there's other folks that would like to speak towards the subdivision for or against it, you can have them come up and then have Mr. Barnes come up at the end, whatever's the board's pleasure. But we do need to give the respondent the opportunity to cross-examine Mr. Barnes at the appropriate time.
All right, we'll do that at the end. I'm going to have anybody else that'd like to speak, just so we get all the questions on the table and we can have Mr. Barnes up here once. Yes, sir. Give us your name and address, please. Very well, thank you.
My name's Kevin McLam. I'm Ronald Wood's son-in-law. We live right across the street at 9328 Strickland's Crossroads Road.
Yeah, you can pass those around. That'll be fine. Thank you.
I actually didn't realize they were showing all that footage and stuff.
I have a
problem.
quick question before he
But,
keeps going. You said I'm Ronald Wood's son-in-law. I mean, didn't Mr. Adams just speak?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Ronald Woods?
He's a different property owner.
The general.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's across the street.
We're right across the street.
Okay.
Like I was just telling him, I didn't realize he was actually showing all those pictures and everything. And ironically, I went back and found a lot of pictures from past storms. Like he was just talking about just heavy rains. And we bring that up just so you guys can be aware of it, so it wouldn't hurt the subdivision itself.
That one.
When you say it wouldn't hurt the subdivision yourself, what?
Well, I mean, there's so much. If you see the wall of water that comes across, I wish I had something I could point at that picture up there. I could show you exactly.
You can have them point on that, or if you want them to put one of these pictures up there, so, and point from that would be just fine. There you go.
See that right there?
Yes, sir, we got you.
All right, that house right there, and the trailer right behind it right there. That darker picture,
Right here.
yes, ma'am. That is flowing towards the subdivision. If you bring the plot map back up, that's actually flowing to the
It's like
in between
3 and
3 and 4 right there.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that-
Go through here.
Yeah.
That's the wall of water that's going to them.
Okay.
And then the daytime pictures were heavy rains, and I tried to go back to my phone, and because your phone takes a stamp date, but I had already downloaded them, switched phones, and it's just on the thumb drive, so it wouldn't give me an actual date. But it's been within the last 5 years and we have these rains, kind of like he was saying, all the time, where it's a heavy downpour, and so we just wanted the developer to kind of see what he's up against. And two, we've got a blind ditch. I call it a blind ditch. It could be a covered ditch, and it's actually, if you bring the aerial plot back up for me. If you zoom in right there, there's a well right there. If you can almost see that line right here. That line runs all the way back up from here and here. And Ronald, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that line runs all the way to this wood line like this, correct?
That's correct, where Bruce said that it dumped into those woods.
That's what's draining our land. And if you zoom back out for me, please. You can kind of almost see the dark spots in the land. And Ronald owns this property back here, and you can see how it all funnels down to this ditch, to this field, in the Dunn's land. Actually, this is the Dunn's land, this is the Bronner's land, and it comes all the way down.
Does anybody, is it a corrugated pipe, just the blind ditch, or?
It's, I think it's 6-inch terracotta. Is it
Okay.
terracotta? What is it?
We're going, if you're going to speak,
Plastic.
we're going to need you at the mic, just so we can get it in the minutes, if you don't mind. Please, thank you.
My name's Ronald Wood, 9360 Strickland Crossroads Road.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sorry, you asked about, it's
Yeah,
corrugated metal pipe.
It's a 6-inch
It is,
diameter,
it is.
6 inches. Okay.
And and that pipe runs onto the subject property as well?
Yeah.
It does, it's underneath it.
In that, what it looks like, that dark area?
It's like
You
4 or
pretty
5.
much follow that dark area right here.
Right, which you can see from the contours, that's a natural depression
draw.
there.
Correct.
That's a draw, okay.
So, like I said, we just kind of wanted to bring it to their attention. We weren't sure if they knew that blind ditch was there, because that's what helps. Because if you go and look, there's a tile culvert. If you zoom in real, with it, that line I was showing you right here.
Yeah.
If you zoom in right there, there's like a tiling that you can look in. I mean, there's water. I mean, it's constantly draining the land.
And what happens, that pipe is there's about 1,000 foot of that pipe from where it starts to where it dumps into Mr. Adams' land.
About right here.
And it's keeping the water level pulled down roughly about 2.5 feet. So whenever we get these heavy rains, it's like a sponge. You have some dry soil, plus we can farm over it. Those pipes allow it to drain down so that you can get access to it. Plus, when you get a heavy rain, it will absorb some of that water rather than just flush it over on Bruce.
Sure.
Is there a pipe that goes under the road right there as well that feeds that
Yeah,
6-inch pipe?
if you'll zoom out for me just a little bit. So it's right here.
Okay.
There's a pipe on up that crosses the road, but whichever one has the most water, that's the way it goes.
I understand.
That may be it right there. My eyesight's.
Yeah, that's it, but that's the where your boat barn used to be right there.
That's the,
Right in here. Well, actually, they were right there, but it's right before that.
And I would assume that's probably an 18-inch pipe, minimal.
It crosses under the road.
Yes, sir. Probably
I'm
18.
gonna say it's at least 8.
Yeah.
See
Yeah,
that
it's under the
out
state
24. Did you have those pictures of where it really comes down? And I think the only thing, we're not trying to, all I would like to ask is that whatever happens is that those ditches would be able to run, however it has to run through that subdivision, wherever it goes, to keep it to the minimum that it's going to dump on Mr. Adams. Because I've been there for 53 years, and he's been there. He was born on his farm, so it dumps a lot. It actually, he may not have been able to tell you that, but back when that picture was taken, it actually flushed over Hannah Creek Road. There was so much water going to where he called the King Stewart Pond that it actually ran over the road. So I feel like any more water from anywhere is going to really flood him out. And even before this came about, I had told him that I would help him keep the end of those pipes cleaned out so that water could drain through my farm and through the Norris farm and go on through his farm, so that whenever we have a flash rain, that everything's not flooded out.
Does anybody know when the blind drain was installed and who installed it? I'm just curious.
No, sir. I got a few birthdays on me. I know as long as I can remember, there has either been an open ditch or a blind ditch, and I'm thinking, I don't know, 40 years or more.
Okay.
Like I say, I've been on the farm for 53 years, but I can't remember all of those details.
the FSA might have a record of it.
I asked over the county, I don't think it could go back that far.
And it goes, you mentioned a terracotta pipe. That
I
makes-
thought so, I was wrong.
It could be,
There was terracotta
Yeah.
back there many years ago.
because that's about for the time.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, what happened, a big combine crushed it in and it stopped it stopped the water from running, because it comes from way up. I'd say it probably comes from maybe 2,000 feet of water comes down to Bruce's, dumps into Bruce's line.
So, like I said, we just wanted to kind of bring it his attention to see what we can do to address that situation. Also, I noticed on the plot map that it's not a voluntary farm district. We had that implemented. So
Okay.
it's going to be, it will be.
Okay, for y'all's property? Okay, very good.
Yeah, there is a note on the plat that it's located within half a mile from a voluntary ag district.
Yeah.
And one more question, just for giggles. Let's just say that open ditch was placed along the property line. You know, in lieu of the blind ditch.
Along the front, or do you
The
talking about the side?
Going from north to south. Like, yes, exactly.
Well, you're going uphill right there.
I know you'd had to cut through the hill. I'm just,
Yeah,
possible solution,
it should be a deep ditch, wouldn't it?
yeah. Okay.
Would that be?
Where would you send it to?
I mean, it's gonna go to the same place it goes to now, but it's just gonna reroute along the property line, but you would have to cut through the hill, as he was saying. I understand that.
Is that something that, who would maintain that?
The adjoining property owners. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, that's not,
Well, and that's why we wanted to see if we can sit down with the site guy
Right.
that's doing this, so we can kind of come together and have a medium, you know.
and I don't mean to get weedy, but you got an 18-inch pipe trying to feed a 6-inch pipe. And if you can resolve that, that's gonna help everybody. You know, but it's gonna get that water quicker to Mr. Adams.
Well, that 6 inch is just kind of draining the land. The 18 inch is dumping it on us,
Okay.
right? And so
Yeah.
then it naturally just drains in,
Drains
but
in.
the majority of that water, these pictures, I mean, you see, that is a
Runs
30-foot
across it.
wide. I mean, that's massive. That's a lot of water running through there. And that's all the way to the doorsteps to the backside of that White House and halfway up to that single wide trailer. That's just a lot of water.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions of the gentleman?
and if you don't, I just had a couple other things if you
Sure.
could.
Go ahead.
We would like to see if the developer would implement an HOA for the said subdivision. I mean, we maintain our stuff and keep everything nice and neat. And if, you know, if we could implement something to kind of help maintain that same thing, we would like that and to see it through. I think one of y'all mentioned something earlier about the, you can bring the map back up. It was a berm or something you wanted to put behind those lots that were backing up to each other. Adjoining to our property line, would that be the same principle?
Yeah, that's
A
what you.
berm or some
Yep.
natural
Yeah.
vegetation.
Yeah, you had
like
mentioned that.
Cypress.
That
or
would be on this
I
side,
did.
not this
Yeah,
side.
the land development manual doesn't currently require any buffers between like land uses. So between a neighborhood and a farm, for example, doesn't require it. Sometimes developers will offer it. It's not something that's currently required.
And I figured you'd say that, but I thought it was for, for them, it's required, right? But for us.
No, it's not
No, it's
required
not.
of them.
Okay,
It's not
misunderstood.
required within a
Only
subdivision.
required
either.
against the highway.
Yeah.
I got you. I misunderstood. I thought it was you were talking about in between, the way the blocks back.
She was just asking
was
if
just
they
asking.
were going to do anything.
I got you. I think that's pretty much it, guys. It was really the water, the biggest concern for us. You got anything else?
That's it. When you mentioned that drain system, like I say, whatever it would take, if it's 12 inch or whatever, there could probably be a catch basin, and then if that water was still diverted in a larger pipe like you were talking about, that still goes, because that natural drain that we have now is doing that subdivision as much good as it is my land, because it's I know once there's a home
Right.
there, it's gonna shed off, and it's gonna shed off fast, whereas in the past, you have some croplands and stuff that's gonna take up some of that moisture, but that's just my thought.
Well, and the only concern I got with the blind ditch is you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, you could possibly have 5 or 6 different property owners where that blind ditch goes through if it's there right now. And you can't, and it's hard to get one person to do, but not more or less 6.
Well, you answered, I mean, our next question was that I'd rather do this up front and have one person to not fight it, but to, you know, get this 3 versus 18 people.
Right.
You know, it's easier to deal with one person than it is 18 people.
Amen.
Yes.
So, and plus, you know, once the developer moves out, you know, we're left with it, you know, so I'd rather try to fix it up front if we can.
Okay.
My concern is if they try to block that off and stop that drainage, then whatever's flooding over, it's gonna go somewhere. I mean, it's gonna go.
It's gonna go over here.
And I just feel like that
And their
the
property.
drainage has
It's going right here.
worked. It don't work good now, but in 24, 48 hours, that 6-inch pipe will pour that water down that's.
Do we want
that's
those
back there.
pictures?
Right.
We'll need them in depth.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
At least,
thank you.
let the engineer do something. I feel like that they can continue to let those existing drains in the earthwork somehow and still dump out somewhere. They could, you could consider a ditch, but it's hard for me to get someone out of a sling blade to clean them out.
Understand.
But anyway, we appreciate y'all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank y'all for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to this subdivision? Yes, sir. Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Kevin Hardison with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. I live in Juniper Church Road, 3357 Juniper Church Road. However, I have to point out something on the plot. My mother's property is actually bordering an area here. If you can move out, oh, that's perfect. I'll go back to the plot map if you don't mind, sir. If you look to the right, that little square piece, up a little bit further, that right there,
Okay.
that's represented as Ricky Norris. That's actually incorrect. That whole section that's partially under the road and to the other side, that's a trailer space. That's actually owned by Joanne Hardison. 140 Eagle Road, and the ID is 01G12030. If you have to pull it up. So that's labeled wrong on the map. I bring that to your attention. A couple things, you know, map needs to be correctly recorded. Another thing too is when I was little, that whole back area before they put the road over was swampy and still is swampy. It's very wet back there, and for a simple fact is all that area right there is pretty much underwater a lot of times of the year. If you get 1 inch of rain, it's enough to keep it up there. I know they've said that they've done tests on it, but I've seen out there when it's been dry as a bone, hadn't rained for a while, and it's still wet out there in the middle of that field. I know because I've been there my whole life. So I just want to bring that attention. What do we need to do to resolve the map?
We'll ask the applicant about the resolution on the plat map. They are showing even though GIS does not show a blue line stream in that area, they are showing a riparian buffer and stream in the area of that parcel. Well, you can see it on the plat map there. So,
Where's that at right there?
there you go.
Yep.
That's the riparian buffer?
The width, yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's a blue line stream.
So is that, what does that mean? Is that a
can't do
stream that's coming through there?
That means that the applicant, at least in their process, identified that as a stream and have the appropriate buffers tied to that such that work cannot happen within those buffers. You can see that there's not any parcels associated with it, at least in terms of the subdivision.
Well, there's not any parcels of term right, but that's my mother's property.
Hey, well, again, I'm looking at the county's GIS and it does not show a blue line stream in that. So I'm not sure of the discrepancy, but as it relates to the subdivision,
Okay.
I'm looking at it relative to parcels.
But that's what I'm saying, that riparian buffer, that's where all that water's coming from, the subdivision into that, it's draining into that riparian buffer, it's draining into that stream. I've just seen it over the course of my life, so.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the gentleman? Thank you.
Okay, you.
Anyone else? All right, Mr. Barnes, I think you're up. And we'll give the attorney an opportunity to ask you a few questions that I think the board might have a few as well.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Very well, thank you. Good evening.
So just as
board member pointed out, is that the riparian buffer in the upper right-hand corner?
That is correct.
Okay, and that's flowing directly onto what you saw earlier was the waterway.
Through the woods?
I'm under the impression it's flowing north to south.
Yeah, south is where Mr. Bruce Adams has his tract,
Okay.
and kind of where we pointed out where that flow would be.
Like I said, it's just flowing,
Yeah.
as far as I know, it's flowing north to south.
And the elevation lines on the upper right-hand corner, they are where the Hannah Creek, Hannah Creek, Strickland's Crossroads Road, and I-40 bridge is, correct? That's the overpass of I-40.
Talking about the intersection of Hannah Creek Road and Strickland Crossroads Road,
And
right there,
I-40 right there.
and I-40 to the east.
And those little lines on the plat, they're indicating topographically of the elevation there.
Correct.
And where that riparian buffer is supposed to start, it starts at the top of that hill, correct?
That's where it's been designated. That's correct.
And it flows all the way downhill onto Mr. Adams' land?
Again, as far as I know, it's flowing
Yeah.
north to south.
Yes, sir. On the lots, particularly, what's the lots on the plat designated as lot 5 through 10, kind of on the back side, that adjoins Mr. Adams' land, correct?
Yes, sir. Where's that?
And there's no indication on the map of any kind of buffer, although not required, that would be put in place between where those woods are. Wood line is indicated in the central portion of that map, correct?
That is correct. I'm not seeing any buffer.
And that was where one of the wood lines, the streams, was first shown earlier to start its flow into a pond, correct? At that wood line? I believe it was pond 3.
I'm not seeing a stream on here, but there could be something in that area, in that wooded area right there.
Yes, sir. I believe it was.
There could be.
I believe it was where the beaver dam was. That picture. Forget what exhibit it was.
Okay.
Also on lots 14 through 16, there's no indication of any kind of barrier or buffer between the wood, what it would be the wood parcel that Ricky Norris has indicated would still own, and the subdivision, correct?
You mean 11 through 13?
It might be. I can't.
That's right when you're talking.
Yeah, 11 through 13. I apologize.
11 through 13.
Yeah.
There's no buffer shown on the back of those lots.
What would happen to the backyards of those lots with all that runoff there?
Well, that area is currently being farmed, as far as I can tell. If we go back to the ortho photos.
The woods where those
No,
streams?
the back of the lots.
Well, when they are, as we saw earlier, there's some standing water being through there sometimes. If the subdivision were to happen and there was homes and yards and residences, what would happen with the runoff from that riparian buffer into the yards of those homes?
If the water came out of the woods, then, yeah, the backyards would
Be
be
flooded?
wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also back to the previous, I believe it's 5 through 10, where I asked you about the same question about a barrier right there. The same thing would happen there where that other stream and the the ditch would go through, where Mr. Wood and Mr. McClam testified that there's previous standing water kind of that's been flowing through there, right where lot 6 and 7 is supposed to be.
There's, okay, so let me ask this. You're saying there's standing water
I
on the
believe
back of
that's
lot 6 and 7?
where that depression on the map, if you look at the GIS, right there, kind of where the ditch of Mr. Wood and Mr. McClam kind of, doesn't it start over there on the left?
You're saying there's a French drain that comes through
Yeah.
there that conveys underground water.
Mm-hmm. And it flows onto Mr. Adams' land, correct? I don't know. I believe their testimony was that it flowed into Mr.
I was
Adams.
asking, do you want me to come up there
No.
and address it? But yeah, water stands in between the two houses and flows the same, in those pictures I showed you, all into that field.
Stands between the, up here or down here at the woods line?
Mr. Barnes, I can help you. I think what, I did not hear any testimony related to standing water, more so flowing stormwater coming from off the property through that area, that where the field seems to be darker there into the woodland. So, I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, it's where water's currently
Where it's currently, water's currently flowing, yeah.
As it's probably always been
Right.
flowing.
Correct.
Right.
And that would be at the back of lots 6, 7, and 8 on the plat.
Yes, that's gonna be one of the lowest points on the property.
And that's bordering where Mr. Adams testified a stream starts in those wood lines on his property, correct?
If that's what he said.
Yeah. And pond number 3, I believe in one of the exhibits, is right on that line. That's what Mr. Adams' testimony was, but
Okay.
was there any studies of any kind of wetlands being delineated on the surrounding tracts? Do you know if they are?
No, to my knowledge, not currently, but that will be part of that. You know, again, if the subdivision is approved, that is part of the development process.
Was there any kind of preliminary indications of it being in a flood zone, the surrounding tracts?
To my knowledge, no. But we do have on GIS, there is a 100-year flood zone layer.
That's the layer zone, there, these are your flood zones.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Alrighty, and that Stewart's Pond down there, were you aware that that's ultimately kind of where that water from the riparian buffer would flow through?
I didn't know the name of it, but, you know, as we know,
Yes, sir.
water flows downhill, so, yes,
All right.
it's going somewhere.
Yes, sir. Alrighty. No further questions. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Barnes.
Mr. Barnes, I think, have you done stormwater calculations at this point in the process yet?
Mr. Leechworth, we have not.
Okay.
Now, you know, that's something that we will certainly, again, if the project moves forward.
Sure.
That's something that we will certainly be involved in the development process.
It seems to me, relative to this property, and I have heard no testimony that seems to indicate that the subdivision at this point hasn't been designed per the codes and ordinances, but it does, at least related to dealing with the runoff created from this property. But it does seem to me that there's a lot of runoff flowing across this property currently from other properties.
I would agree.
It's at your discretion what you choose to do, at least as in terms of tabling this or having us take a vote. But I would appreciate some additional information. Maybe you're prepared to give it now. Maybe you would need some time to give us that information on how that significant runoff is addressed around and within the subdivision. Because it seems to me that there's a run that runs across this land and hits, you know, everywhere, anywhere from lot maybe 2, certainly 3, 4, 5, through the corner of the roadway there, 6, 7, maybe even 8. And it would affect a significant number of home sites on this that, you know, and we heard testimony that there is a pipe on this property too that handles some amount of runoff that would certainly be affected by this. But I would appreciate some additional information on how that water will be handled after the subdivision, because it seems to me to be significant enough that it would affect the houses that would be sitting on those lots.
That's fair. You know, we've heard tonight, there's not only overland flow coming across the property, you know,
Right.
as the topography shows, but there's also French drain that starts off the property and you know, it's been constructed through the property and outlets, you know, into the adjacent properties.
Right.
Property. You know, our office has not, you know, we have not performed a stormwater management plan. You know, I can't say here tonight, this is exactly where, you know, something designed for stormwater attenuation. This is exactly where we're looking at placing it. However, you know, we do have a Johnston County stormwater ordinance, which would, like all our projects, it's going to come into play. Project would have to fall within those guidelines. You know, we have worked with other projects before where, you know, within reason, all of the additional stormwater that's generated from a project, you know, your pre versus post condition.
Right.
That entire difference is attenuated and released at the pre-development rate.
Sure.
I have a question. Are they gonna have to go and dig up this pipe to show that there's indeed a pipe under there?
No, it's going under the road right now. I mean,
Yeah,
you can-
that's the culvert under the road. But they're saying there's this 6-inch pipe going all the way across where we see the red stuff,
Yeah.
all there.
Let
Are they
him
gonna have to dig that up to show that there is indeed a pipe there?
You can daylight the ends of the pipe, and if it is tabled, I would suggest you do that, and suggest you have some elevation calculations across not only at the ends of the pipe, but across the draw, the natural draw as shown. But that's if you make the decision. That would help me, I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
That's all.
If you don't mind me asking, run that by me one more time. What kind of,
I mean, if you decide to table it, because I think we all, and I'm speaking for myself, let me speak for myself, I need more information, much like the chairman said, but also I'd like to see, you know, elevation at the front of the pipe, at the inlet of the 6-inch pipe, at the outlet of the 6-inch pipe, and then on top of the pipe, the natural draw that runs across. You know, what is the land, not just these 2-foot contours as shown, but something more intense than that. That would help me make a better decision, and obviously the pre and post calculations as well would help.
And I'd like to see where it is in relation to the plat as well. Is it in the middle of the property line, or where else it is too on the plat?
You're talking about the pipe?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think we understand, and again, I have not heard testimony to the contrary that and understand where it fits in your process and our process relative to the pre and post calculations from the stormwater generated from this site, right? I think we understand that you're gonna do that. But there's codes and ordinances, and then there's also, is this a good idea? And I understand what our purview is in the world of is it a good idea or not, but I think we've heard significant enough testimony tonight relative to the amount of stormwater that is flowing, overland flow, coming from other parcels across a significant portion of this subdivision, that I think there needs to be some consideration on how that is handled to ensure that this subdivision is designed in a way where these houses are going to be located so they're not going to flood.
Okay.
And I think an attorney can point us to codes and ordinances that might be more applicable toward that, but it seems to me that we've heard enough testimony to indicate that there's some significant water flow across this parcel right now that needs to be dealt with somehow, and I'd like to know how that's getting dealt with.
Okay. Okay.
Would you like for us to
Make
make a motion, or would you like for us to table this? I'm giving you different, because you,
Well, here in the board tonight, we would like to request to table it.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to table this.
You want it for 30 days or 60 days?
So, 30 days sufficient, or would you prefer 2 months to be able to work through what you need to work through?
What would be our cutoff date if we weren't ready, and how far in advance would you need to know? 30,
At least. You'll bring that information to the meeting and present it at that meeting, not before. So it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, meeting.
30 days.
Okay, all right, so that will table to our next meeting, which is to be on the 16th.
Okay.
All right, was that?
Yes, sir.
I have a motion by Mr. Little,
Second.
second by Ms. Davis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Hand them to me so you could have them.
Todd. And there's the one over there too.
Hamilton Tract, I believe.
Yes, sir. Next up, Hamilton Tract. Owner is Catherine Janine Hamilton. Developer, Tupelo Honey Land Development. Surveyor is Timmons Group. Its location is 11647 NC Highway 39 in the O'Neills Township. It's served by the Corinth Holders Fire District, Clayton Rescue. It's 46.46 acres, 24 lots proposed. Johnston County Public Water. Individual septic. Traffic count was 4,600 vehicles per day in 2021 for that section of NC Highway 39. This portion of that highway appears on the Comprehensive Transportation Plan as an existing major thoroughfare with adequate design capacity. This parcel is within the environmentally sensitive district, however, no floodplain appears on the parcel.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Thank you. Who'd like to be heard on behalf of Hamilton Tract?
Good evening, members of the board. A little stiff from sitting there. Keith Roberts, 202 Monica Creek Drive in Garner, and also
Wayne Baker, 149 South Bloodworth Street.
and I'm the engineer planner for the project, and Mr. Baker here is the developer. Appreciate your time tonight. Appreciate the staff presentation. As you can see, 24 lots on basically 46 acres, very low density. We are stubbing there to the west to adjacent property that's currently landlocked. And I'll go ahead and address stormwater because it seems like it's always a question, so I don't need to sit down and stand back. But anyway, the stormwater on this particular project, ponds would not be required. Attenuation would not be required because it is such low density. We're below 15%. The other, I guess, 800-pound gorilla in the room would be the fact we are stubbing to the neighbors to the west, and there's kind of a high point there at the proposed intersection, and so the water is going downhill towards the west, and those roads will have, ditches headed towards the property there. And so what we do at the end would be to put in a pipe or ditch and pipe it from north to south down our property line to that pond to make sure that we're not putting any additional stormwater on our neighbor, since we are, topo, it does naturally want to take it that way. So the goal there would be to take water off the neighbor, not add water on. And also, just to point out, where we are stubbing in, we will need to add a turnaround there, a temporary turnaround, because of the distance being exceeding 150 feet. Also to make sure no one's going onto the neighbor's property, and allow adequate room for vehicles, emergency vehicles, to be able to maneuver and turn around there. So, here for any questions?
Where's the mail kiosk located? Right?
It is
it
right here?
there.
6 and 5?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. Got it.
So that temporary turnaround, if that street is ever extended, they just abandon that?
Yes.
What turnaround?
Correct.
We revert back to 10 and 11, I guess.
Seems like tight. A wetland just to the north.
Is the open space, does that include a pond?
There is a pond, and this project did not require open space. It was not open space subdivision, but we chose to give it some open space anyway, so that the pond could be maintained by the HOA.
That was
instead
my
of
next,
putting
that was my next question.
Instead of putting on a property owner, and we know what happens there. And
Yeah.
so I talked to Mr. Baker about it, and I said, hey, don't you want to go ahead and do this and make it easier for everybody? And he agreed, so.
Thank you. That's my next question.
Has NCDOT indicated any improvements on NC 39?
Yes, a turn lane will be required based on traffic counts,
It's a busy road.
even though there's only 24 lots here. But
Any other questions, gentlemen? Thanks, sir.
thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to the Hamilton track? Yes, sir. Give us your name and address, please.
Steve Marks, 5629, NC 231.
Okay.
Right, the south side of the property, lots 19, 20, 21, abut my property. And I got a lot of equipment out there, and, you know, when construction starts, I'd like to have some type of natural barrier or a fence, just to keep people from, hey, look at that, right there.
Okay.
I got the greenhouses right at the bottom. And I think they're going to leave all those woods there. I'm pretty sure it's marked as swamp, so that's going to be fine. I just would like to have a little, right now it's deer and turkeys running out back. And a bunch of people, and I just got equipment everywhere.
Okay. Very good.
Just,
Thanks, sir.
yep, thank you.
19 and 18.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to the Hamilton track? All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendations, preliminary approval subject to the conditions and requirements in the staff report.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Ms. Holmes, second by
Howard.
who?
Debbie Howard.
I was trying to see who it was.
It's me.
Second by Ms. Howard. All those in favor say aye. Aye. It threw me off. Your name wasn't on my chart. But that's my fault, because I wrote the chart. I mean, I know your name. It just threw me off because it wasn't on there.
We'll go like that.
I was trying to pull in the.
I need all the help I can get.
mention how many
All right, we'll go with
It's ridiculous.
I was gonna try to pull.
Parker's Landing Phase 2.
Yes, sir. Owner and developer is Axiom Holdings LLC. Surveyor Stocks Engineering. Its location is Sweet Fern Lane off of NC Highway 96 north in the Wilders Township, served by Corinth Holders Fire, Clayton Rescue. 85 acres, 40 lots proposed.
Hang on just a minute. Sorry. I led you into that one, my fault.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, site data, 85 acres, 40 lots proposed, Johnston County Public Water, individual septic. Traffic count is not available for Sweet Fern Lane. This portion of Sweet Fern Lane does not appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as needing improvement. This parcel is within the environmentally sensitive area, however, no floodplain appears on the parcel. And per NCDOT, a left turn lane will be required on NC 96 turning on to Sweet Birch Lane.
All right, any questions of staff? All right. Thanks, sir. Who'd like to be heard on behalf of, make sure I get the right one here, Parker's Landing Phase 2?
Good evening. Ethan Averitt, 801 East Washington Street, Nashville, North Carolina, representing Stocks Engineering as engineer and the applicant Axiom Holdings. We are proposing straightforward subdivision in the environmentally sensitive area. So all the lots are 40,000 square feet or above. We have had soils evaluation performed by AgriWaste, and that is the hatched area on the map. This subdivision will be served by the 50-foot right-of-way stub that is already existing from Yellowwood through to the property. And then we do have comments from DOT that turn lane will be required on 96, and we are planning on making that improvement. And then there is actually wetlands and floodplain off to the very west on those two parcels that are, I guess, that were segmented into two parcels. And so those are shown on the map. And I'd be glad to answer any other questions that you guys have.
So the open space, that'll be maintained by the HOA?
Yes, that's correct.
The existing HOA, or will there be a separate HOA for this phase? Will this all tie in together?
I believe there will be a new one, but I
Okay.
cannot say 100%. Yes.
It looks like all of this is already wooded, mainly for the open space.
Yes, the majority. It was cut over a couple years ago, so there's undergrowth and yeah.
So
Yeah, it looks like it was cut and now it's growing back.
just trying to make sure.
Did they have a VAD mark on here?
I don't know if they do have a VAD.
What are these long
Oh, here's one.
easements?
The long lot lines that are for lots 19, 20, 21 are going to be served by the suitable soils area that's down on the lower
Right.
portion that you see hatched down there.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah,
I couldn't
so there's,
find 'em.
there's no, not enough suitable soil up near the cul-de-sac, so they're going to drain, have drain fields down at the southern portion.
Okay.
Couldn't see the lot designation.
I'm not seeing a note on the plat of a voluntary ag district.
Yeah, there's one located that butts up right to the property, but we don't see the note.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get that added.
Okay. I think I got this figured out. All right, other questions of the gentleman? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, guys.
Anyone else like to be heard on behalf of Parker's Landing Phase 2? On behalf of? Anybody on behalf of, or? Okay, yeah, we'll go with on behalf of first, and then
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Brandon Giello, 130 Sweet Birch Avenue. Just a couple questions. We already presented some of that information pertaining to the HOA. We're going to take a vote in the neighborhood to see if we want to retain that HOA to the existing houses in Phase 1 versus conjoining with Phase 2. Obviously, that's going to be a vote with our neighbors, but it's leaning towards keeping our own HOA and having Phase 2 be on there separate, just for ease of use. 14 homes, we keep the lights on, we keep the front maintained, we call it a day. Next question is pertaining to the private street, Yellowwood and Sweet Birch Avenue currently. How will these construction activities long-term affect that privately owned street? And would we be on the hook for replacing that, maintaining that through that process of construction activities? I guess that's kind of a two-part question. One, is that something we should turn over to the DOT to start maintaining with the new neighborhood? Or two, does it get ripped out and replaced and kept current? But that doesn't make much sense with all that traffic going to phase two. How easy is that to kind of integrate into turning that over to DOT?
Okay, so you say Sweet Birch Avenue and Yellowwood have not been turned over to NCDOT at this
I
point?
don't think they could have because of the easement there wasn't brought up to code that enters into phase two. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm off
All right.
there.
Well, we'll ask that question to them, but just, I'll note that. I'll
To
note that one.
my knowledge.
Okay.
So I believe it's the responsibility of the current homeowners there to maintain the roadways right now.
All right.
And if that's as easy as turning that over once that section has been brought up to speed, then that would be the direction more than likely we want to go to avoid $200,000-$300,000 to repair a roadway.
All right.
Roadway, we touched on the HOA. Of course, we'll hammer out those details. Wanting to know about the, what interventions are going to be made to keep the flow of water coming down this back side of the property here. It's already pretty heavy. I'm not sure if they plan on any, putting on any berms or anything up for that, that water flowing down. It gets pretty heavy on the Alcaraz property to a point where their bottom left of their right of their house stays pretty wet, and then encroaching into my yard over towards that noose buffer there. It's just has a difficult time draining. Wondering if they're going to how those manipulation of the land and taking the vegetation off is going to shift water down that hill even more, or if they're going to put a little berm. Might not be any issue at all. Just curious.
Cool.
Pete, am I missing anything? Dust abatement. I'm assuming that's going to be part of the SWIP plan.
Hang on. You ask me the questions, then I'll get you some answers. So
Thanks,
that way
Will.
we can hear the talking for the minutes.
Okay.
So dust abatement during construction?
During construction activities.
All right.
And then, of course, is there going to be certain time frames of construction activities during the week versus late at night and on the weekend, just, or have a day off on the weekend? I'm not sure what procedures are for that.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Hello, I'm Peter Trzynski. I live at 26 Yellowwood, right on the corner. Be lot 7 of Parker's Lane. My only question is, who calls it Phase 2? When I bought my land 6 years ago, 7 years ago, no one told me there was a Phase 2. And this is saying there's a Phase 2 that I never knew about. I don't want to be associated with that back there. I bought it because it was 14 people. It was a small HOA, and that's what I wanted. Now, I don't want to be called into a Phase 2 and then be sucked into a bigger subdivision.
Sure.
Okay?
Have you looked on your deed to see if it says phase 1?
I'd have to look. I'd have to look. Yeah, I'd have to look. Thank you.
Any more questions for you? Or I'm gonna grab this lady here.
Think good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hey folks, my name is Virginia Hokett, and when you came up here, you said that Thomas White was the current owner and developer. That is incorrect. I am the owner. He has a note with me, a promissory note that he is in default for. So I just want to throw that up there. I only know about this from a mutual connection, but this is not what my family envisioned for this land, these long, skinny lots. This does not have anything to do with ordinance or that effect, but I can tell you that this land has been in my family for 100 years, and this is not what we anticipated with that. Now, until he has paid up with me, I request that we table this until we can come together and figure something. In addition to that, unless they have covered up the abandoned wells out there, I know that there are at least 2.
Okay.
All I got to say, guys.
A couple things. Let me get your address if you don't mind.
142 Eatman Road.
Okay, thanks. And your name again? I'm
My
sorry.
name is Virginia Ann Hocutt.
Okay. And so okay, so you saying you were the owner?
I'm the promissory. I'm the owner. I'm owner financing this property to Mr. White, and he is in default right now.
You've already deeded it over to him, and you're the bank.
Right.
Okay.
So really, he is owner.
Right, until we can settle this. But he's trying to move forward on this project, and it's going to affect me. So I just wanted to get up here and let it be known. I side with the rest of Parker's Landing. Nobody wants these long, skinny lots back there. I don't know how it's going to work, if it will work. Don't know if you'll be able to reach out of your house and touch the person next door. I don't know. But this is not what I envisioned with this tract. Now, if he wants to do this, that's fine, but we have to settle up our debts first. So I would respectfully request that we table this one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else would like to be heard as it relates to Parker's Land in Phase 2? Yes, sir. Oh.
My name is Jeffrey Smith. I live at 62 Yellowwood Avenue. So my lot is the lot that is cornered between Yellowwood and Sweet Fern. Simply, and maybe somebody else has already answered this and knows the answer to this, but since the Sweet Fern is actually in Phase 1, what we're calling Phase 1, whose responsibility is it going to be to bring that up to code standards and pave it and do all the work to access those lots back there? Is that going to fall on us? Since we're private owners on the hook for the roads in, Phase 1, who's going to be responsible for that?
We're going to find out.
Okay.
Good question. All right. Yes, sir. Get you now.
I'm Tim Hutchins. I'm at 122 Yellowwood Ave. I'm at the dead end of the cul-de-sac. My big concern would be, we're in a development with, I think, 13 houses in it. The roads in the development were built for 13 houses. With 40 lots going in, we're talking probably a minimum of 80 cars, plus service vehicles, plus delivery vehicles. What kind of traffic control is going to be put in place? Is it stop signs? Who's responsible for it? Coming out of Sweet Fern, how do we deal with that extra traffic on these small roads? It's a concern of mine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to Parker's Landing? All right, I think we got a couple questions for the applicant, if you don't mind. I heard questions about whether Yellowwood and Sweet Fern were state maintained, and how will those roadways be maintained through construction? We'll start there.
Right. So they are currently not, as has been mentioned, but the plan is to turn it over to DOT, and the developer sign on to deed these, or to turn these over to state maintenance. That has not been.
Now?
Wait,
It has
all
not been
of
put
them,
in
even
place
the
yet.
current ones that are
Right, to turn the current two over, and the future as well.
So the developer's willing to bring Yellowwood and the other
Sweet
one
Fern.
coming
Sweet
off
Fern.
Sweet
Sweet Fern.
Briar.
Birch.
They're willing to
Birch.
bring those up to stand up to code for DOT code.
Yes, they should be there currently, but yes, the plan is to turn them over to DOT maintenance. Yes,
Say, have you currently petitioned them to the department yet?
we have not yet, but that is the plan of action.
Just, I'm gonna throw it out there.
Right.
There's a good possibility the department will not take that over.
Right.
They want to take it over as one. If you continue in Phase 2,
Right.
they would probably want to wait to the end, my speculation,
Right.
to take it all in one shot.
Right, and the timing really isn't, I guess, the concern necessarily as seems to be the maintenance, the future maintenance, the long-term maintenance, especially due to construction activity for the current residents. And so, yeah, the plan is for the roads to be turned over to DOT for permanent maintenance.
After completion of Phase 2.
Correct, yes. And I guess the only other piece I'll mention about DOT is currently, there was mentioned of an easement. The stub to the property is dedicated right away, is not an easement. So it is not a road brought up to standard. Obviously, we would have to build that as a developer, but it is,
Coming off Yellowwood.
it is right away, not easement, yes.
Yeah, it is recorded as public, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
And then as far as the construction, traffic, and maintenance, the developer will be coordinating with the residents on any, I guess, requests of that, since the developer is connected to the HOA.
Okay, so the developer is currently part of the HOA.
Correct.
Okay. We heard some concerns about stormwater flow. I
Right.
think particularly in the northeastern
Right.
portion of the project. Can you talk to us about that?
So one, obviously, we will meet the Johnston County stormwater requirements when we submit the construction drawings. I will say the flow is actually directed onto this parcel away from the 3 lots. And there's a stream, if you can see, that kind of starts at the back of the existing lots and goes back across the corner. And that is shown on our map as potentially buffered. And so we would maintain that existing flow and make sure, obviously, during our stormwater review process that it remains that way. So that these upstream properties would not be negatively affected as well as downstream.
So that stream that's currently shown starting at the back of the Brandon Nathaniel
Correct.
Yellow lot,
Mm-hmm.
that's the head of that stream and it flows northwest, is that what you're saying?
Correct, yep. It flows away from their lots.
Okay. All right, I see.
So,
that
and
on the
yeah, that's the feature that they were discussing. And obviously, we would ensure that it's not dammed up, no water's backed up onto their property. Our plan is to maintain existing flow patterns.
Okay. All right. Other questions of the gentleman?
And then it,
Oh, that's all right.
Is it on that property line? Is there an existing lien on the property? A default lien?
You can ask it, go on.
Okay. And I'm not sure if this is for you or for the lady
Right.
in the black. Is there a current default lien on this property?
My attorney has been working
Hang
on
on,
it.
we're gonna need you to,
I
let's
will-
finish question, well,
right, and
you
I'll
did
say,
the right thing.
yeah.
We'll let you give your answer and then I'll ask you back up here to answer that question.
And I'll tell you, I'm unaware, but the current property owner, the representative of Axiom Holdings, is here if you would like to hear from him, but obviously it is deeded and in the GIS as Axiom Holdings land. So I will leave that decision to you guys.
I'll ask our attorney, is that germane to the decision we're being asked to make this evening?
So certainly the owner of the property needs to join into the application. We've done no title work with regards to any of those issues. I'm assuming, and I think staff can confirm with us one way or the other, whether or not we have an application where there is where the owner signed the application, and we take those representations as true. Typically, on a default type situation like this, if that is in fact the case, and again, I don't know because I've not looked, but if that is in fact the case, then that's sort of a private property matter between private citizens, and not really the purview of this board to make a determination with regards to that. But certainly if you have questions about the ownership of the property, then that is something that should be addressed.
Thank you.
Right, and we would request, obviously, that your decision would be made, I guess, pending that approval of that. Yeah.
Pending, what do you mean by pending?
Or your approval, I guess, or your decision pending the verification of the land ownership, if that were, as opposed to tabling.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When they put an application, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, when they put in an application and they sign that they are the true owners, at some point, somebody in our staff has pulled up something on the GIS to see that that person is the owner.
And I'm looking at that right now.
And it
lists
is the
Axiom
owner.
Holdings as the owner.
Yeah, okay.
Good. So,
So I would say the ownership issue and all of those sorts of things, the burden of proof is on the applicant initially. And it appears that you've got a deed, and it appears that you've got an application with assigned ownership. I don't know that there's any evidence in the record contra to that, other than that there's a dispute on the promissory note and those sorts of things. But there's no evidence in the record that I have heard of any type of injunction, any type of dispossession of this property. Now, certainly, if there is evidence of that, I think you were going to ask the holder of the note to come back up and talk about that. But I've not heard any evidence in the record one way or the other with regards to that, other than there's a dispute.
okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions of this gentleman before we ask the lady to come back? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So, do you mind repeating your question? Just
I was asking if there's an active default lien on this property.
Josh Whitaker is working on it. He should have sent it out. I haven't verified that it went out today, but he told me yesterday it was going out today.
Wait. Can I ask the attorney a question as a response to what she just said?
yes, ma'am.
There could be some kind of active movement in that direction, but to our knowledge, there's not been a judge that has foreclosed on it, correct?
Right.
Correct.
And there's currently not an active lien.
That's correct.
Okay.
I just thought it was important that I come up here because this has been an ongoing battle. I've been in contract with this man for 15 months on an owner financing deal on a $2 million property. And I'm telling you, it was a hard lesson, and I'm glad I've gone through it. But if this is going on property that I'm still owed a significant amount of
Well, they would
money.
have to pay you before they transfer.
You're right.
title.
I felt like I had to be up here, and I don't agree with the way that this is out. It's too much of a beautiful piece of land to have. These are like beachfront properties, right? But there is no ocean. We're in Johnston County. They're just going to take the bears' habitat. I'm sorry.
Just for your information, relative to process, so if we were to approve this, it still has to go through several levels of staff and engineering review. So this isn't the end.
Right.
This is kind of a step in the middle, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So there is quite a bit more to be done before construction would start. NCDOT approval, county stormwater approval. So there's more to be done here. I hope that'll help you with timeline.
I appreciate it.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just felt after 15 months of being in a relationship with this, I had to be here to give a voice. And I'm not versed on ordinance and all of that things, but I just wanted to say my piece.
Okay.
So
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendations, preliminary approval, subject to the conditions and requirements in the staff report.
I would just also like to note that on the enrollment for the school, all three of the schools, I would just like to make a comment about all of the capacity and the enrollment numbers
I agree.
that are districted with this subdivision.
I think I alluded to it earlier, but I like, just a stated concern is that if these 40 lots are done, and then there's significant damage to Yellowwood and the other road, that's gonna have to be, fixed prior to DOT taking it over. I just don't wanna have another situation where you got 40 lots that are on private, that don't have a public right-of-way to them, it's taken over by the state. We got school bus, EMS, fire issues that could come up with that's just put on everybody's radar.
That begs a question for the attorney. how does our, remind me please how our ordinance deals with the impacts to roads that have currently not been turned over to NCDOT and the requirement that they be? Because I don't see a condition in here unless I'm missing it.
There's not
Okay.
a condition in the staff package. I would refer your attention to Section 14-226 of the Land Development Code, and that is the section of the code that deals with access and circulation with regards to the subdivision. And you do have some discretion with regards to the type and arrangement of streets within the development. And so those are the kinds of things that you can think about. You can also look at the relationship to adjoining properties. And so if it would be helpful, we can get that section of the ordinance up on the screen if you need to see that. I don't know if you've got your iPads with you where you can pull it up, but we can ask Mr. Newton to pull up that section 14-226, and all of the standards with regards to subdivision approval are contained within that section, and you do have some discretion related to that.
How would we probably word a condition? Because I can understand the current owners that are in the front. They're responsible for those roads right now. And there's going to be a lot of traffic going through there. And through the engineer, the developer has voiced that they're willing to maintain those roads, keep them up, and then bring them up to DOT standards at the completion of Phase 2 for Phase 1 and 2 to be turned over to DOT, which is a good thing. But how could we word that in a condition when we already kind of know verbally that they are willing?
Is for one of the existing homeowners, this question is for you, is the developer still listed as a majority member of your HOA? Okay.
I was turned over right after completion.
Thank you.
I guess my concern with that, Ms. Howard, would be what happens if they don't,
Right.
with regards to the condition.
And that happens all the time in subdivisions. So then it's up to the HOAs to go after the developer, which a lot of times go belly up, and we have no control over that. So that's just a risk.
And then it goes back to
Correct.
Tim's point of 40-something lots on a private street.
Correct. But then you could run into that with any subdivision that we approve. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the challenge here is that you just got a satellite that's, if the roads were already up to DOT standards, I wouldn't even say. If the ones that we're gonna be connected, because then it's gonna be on DOT if they own the roads to keep them up to standard.
Right.
Correct.
You know, keep maintenance on them.
But they're
That's
gonna
not
come in
the
and make a
case.
list.
That's not the case now.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think at a minimum, a condition needs to be added to this that would, because I'm not seeing it in the, well, I gotta make sure I'm reading the ordinance correctly here.
Take a look, Mr. Letchworth, at 14-226, subsection B. That's the relationship to adjoining properties. That may be where you have some interest with regards to this discussion.
Yeah, I think the ordinance certainly requires that they be coordinated with adjoining properties. I think as part of that coordination, we need a condition that would require that Yellowwood and Sweet Birch Avenue be petitioned to NCDOT for inclusion into the state maintained roadway system after completion of Parker's Landing Phase 2, which by extension would require, I wouldn't say be petitioned to, be
To go ahead and be turned over before.
turned over, because NCDOT will I am assuming that based on the construction traffic, they may need some repairs that
Correct.
NCDOT would require.
Right.
we can work on how we word that, but we heard the applicant testify that that was their plan. I think we need to add that plan as a condition.
I agree.
I agree.
So I think you worded it good.
Well,
So number 32, what is it again?
Making motion.
Likely added is probably, I'll put it as somewhere around 14 and just push everything else down.
So, all right.
Mr. Letchworth, my concern about this, and you know, Braston's the expert over here and Todd's the expert over here. My concern is the requirement to improvements for off-site roadway improvements that are off-site. And if you think about it, those two streets are off-site because these are two separate parcels. And I don't know if you've got some thoughts about that, Mr. Newton.
Yeah, we can't condition.
That's what I'm saying, we
not
can't.
property.
Yeah.
While Preston's getting ready, I'm not not interested in requiring improvements. I'm interested in requiring that they be turned over to NCDOT. NCDOT can require improvements, if any are necessary.
Yeah, I think
So I guess the question would be the enforceability of that condition, you know.
Yeah, so there comes it's kind of, there's the rub, right? So you have streets that may not be today Yellowwood, Sweet Birch, and obviously Sweet Fern is not, that are not currently built to, potentially not currently built to NCDOT standards for acceptance into their system. That's not going to get any better unless there is some improvement pre or post development of the subject tract, right? So that's your consideration. Another consideration is, one, you have a certificate of ownership and dedication here as it relates to the streets, and it does state that the owner, the developer owner, at the time of recording of Phase 1, or however you want to say it, Parker's Landing, had committed and signed that plat and said they would assume responsibility and liability of the road maintenance of those roads until they were turned over either to a public entity or a private entity such as a homeowners association or neighborhood association. So once again, this begs a question. It's not for us to answer it. I think this is the burden at this time would be on the applicant. Have those streets in Parker's Landing have they been dedicated to DOT? I think we know the answer to that. We searched that. They're not on the database. Number two, have they been dedicated to the HOA or the neighborhood association, whichever is applicable? And if they have not, then if this is in fact the same developer, then there may or may not be some responsibility he may have in maintaining those streets anyway. That is not a question for us to answer, but that is a question. With regard to a stipulation or a condition of the approval of the subject development, I do have the same concerns our council does about off-site improvements. That is a concern. Obviously, DOT could accept, if the streets were in acceptable condition today with no future development plans of this rear parcel, they could petition for acceptance, and DOT would have to make that determination whether they met their standards for acceptance. Who's to say it can't happen? Mr. Little's already stated, probably not, and I would think if, you know, with the plans that are in place, I would tend to agree with him that they would wait until all the streets were in place. Now, they're only going to accept, Mr. Little, help me out here, since you're kind of resident expert on this. They will accept those that meet the criteria in terms of the development and that as the build out on those streets. So it's got to be built out to a certain level before they would actually accept those. So any of these new streets, it's going to be some time. When they're done paving and they're completed with the physical development of the property and they're ready to record, once those streets are recorded, they don't automatically get dedicated. They can't petition for dedication at that time. They can petition, it's just going to sit there in limbo until your homes are completed and CO'd
And
the other streets that adjoin it or added.
Or added to the system as well.
Annex
Yep.
streets for the department.
So can I ask you, are you saying that this certification right here that's been signed on August 10th, 2017, bottom left-hand corner of this map, pretty much addresses what we've been talking about?
This is a certification that has changed since the language has changed slightly from what you see here to what we currently require. But this is a certification where it appears to me, once again, I'm not arguing the point, I'm just saying this is what you have on plat. It would be a civil matter between the residents of that neighborhood and the developer signing that plat and signing, attesting to that certification.
There's no hammer.
I don't, Mr. Chairman, it seems to me there should be, this developer, and I don't know if it's the same individual as that did phase one, I'm not sure. But it seems to me there's only one way into this development, into this phase two. And they've got to come through the homeowners association property. Why can't these two just get together and say, well, you're not coming through this phase one property to develop phase two, you're gonna have to find another entrance, or you're gonna have to find a construction entrance on some other
I don't think
property.
they can legally do that
Yeah.
because it was a stub out.
And it's public right of way.
Yeah.
It's public.
It's all,
It's
Yeah.
dedicated
It's
as
public.
public right of way.
It's dedicated as public right of way, but we're
But-
not sure who owns.
well, we know, I thought the homeowners association owned the street.
They own the maintenance.
The maintenance.
It's the age-old question of public use versus public maintenance. In this situation, they've been dedicated by the recording as public use. I mean, that's noted. Obviously, they're not publicly dedicated because the NCDOT is the only public entity with regard to this particular property. These streets that can maintain those, as the county does not have legal authority to or statutory authority to do that.
We have an applicant that has stated that they are willing to make improvements to Yellowwood and Sweet Birch after construction to ensure that they are turned over to NCDOT. How do we ensure that that happens? What's the best methodology for us to ensure that that happens?
How do we ever ensure any subdivision that happens?
Right.
It's up to the property owners to dispute that in court, I guess.
There's a lot of subdivisions sitting around here right now with beautiful houses on them. The roads were supposed to be taken over by DOT, and developers are no longer developing, and the homeowners association is going to be required to bring those roads up or just keep them up, and nobody's doing anything.
And that's if you have a homeowners association.
That's correct.
And which might be arguing, this is probably a conversation for another day. And I didn't mean to stir the nest, but it was like, that's why I said just to be on notice, this could happen.
Right.
But
And it's a public safety issue of being able to be in.
to your point,
To get there.
I understand, if you're considered, and it is an off-site improvement. And I don't know that you can ensure that it happens. But, when somebody buys a lot in the new part, they're gonna have it on the plat. They read the plat, they know the risk they're taking. A lot of people don't do that, but, it's just something maybe we can address, in some other ordinances with the county, because I know some other counties have done it.
Yeah, so that's getting a little bit more difficult as between case law and some legislation that has been passed. It's extremely difficult for us to do that. We had a provision, county had a provision years ago, whereas there would be restriction on the number of homes that would be permitted until such time those streets would be dedicated. However, that is not an option anymore. Really, at this point, it would have to go into a formal, more maintenance agreement from the developer, and you may have to bond, they may have to place and maintain or provide a bond and maintain that bond until such time that they are dedicated. that would be the most viable option. Certainly not the easiest route, but it is probably the most viable option.
All right, I'm going to bring it back to the ordinance for a second. I think that is, and this is an important note here for the board to consider. So 14-226 4B says relationship to adjoining properties. New streets or roads shall be appropriately related to and coordinated with adjoining properties and existing and proposed roadways. Roadways within a proposed subdivision may connect with adjoining properties where necessary to permit the convenient, efficient, and safe movement of traffic. All roads that extend to adjacent properties shall be designated a public road. So I think it's up for this board to determine whether or not this subdivision is the roadways in this subdivision are appropriately related to and coordinated with the adjoining properties. It is connecting to publicly recorded right-of-way. I'll make that note. But I think that's the issue for the board
Is
to
it
have.
safe? Will it be safe for all 40 lots?
And then, Ms. Davis, to sort of address what you mentioned earlier, if you look at 14-226, it's the sentence right before subsection A. One of the things that you also review is safe and convenient vehicular access shall be provided for emergency service and school bus vehicles. So that is part of the ordinance, and I think that was the part that you were referring to.
Yeah, that was my concern, is if school buses can get in and out and turn around and fire trucks and all that stuff.
I'll make a motion for approval, and I'm making that motion based on the history. We have made those approvals in the past, and in many, many ways, it's not any different than anything we've done. This adds a lot of layers to it, but I will make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion for approval by Mr. Little, a second by Ms. Howard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, we'll go show of hands. Motion, those that voted for approval? 2, 3, denial? All right, Parker's Landing Phase 2 is approved. All right, we've been at this for over 2 hours now. I apologize. I was going to try to get through all the subdivisions, but I don't think we're going to make it before we need to take a break. So we'll take a 10-minute break.
We only got 7 more.
That's 3.
Look.
We got videos of this.
Uh-huh.
Say 10 minutes.
Did he? You're kidding me? 10 minutes?
There's only one bathroom. That's why I'm not concerned.
Oh, goodness.
That's why, and then, that's why, but. it so late, Kara's like, we're going to sleep. I wanted to so bad.
Yeah, I wanted to too, but I was like,
on shift, and he had like, when she had reservations, he was like, he was afraid it was gonna get crazy. And I was like, Michael, no, it's not gonna, I said, it's so late. And I said, the state's doing this now. They're too busy to be on their phone. They're not gonna be burning couches on the brickyard. I was
What state
Like
is
we
it
were.
working at?
14.
Okay.
So late then.
Yeah.
all right, we got one more cup of coffee being prepared, and then we'll be ready.
So, but I think he was scared that it was gonna get rough. But whenever me and Kara were back here, it was like all of like there was families. Like
Oh, yeah.
it wasn't crazy, and I think he thought it was funny.
Everybody I saw.
Just want to take a picture.
That was, doing videos on Facebook and stuff. It was like real calm.
Yeah. Well, that's what I told him. I said if we can go ahead and go like at midnight before the team gets there, then I think it.
Yeah.
Like I said, we didn't go. Kara's on. I was like, kid, how cool would that be if they had like a baby picture of them like at the dark?
That would be cool.
You don't know when it happened again.
Yeah, man, you don't. Did you see?
That's
did
true.
You see the American Aquarium guy got? It was, it was, he got a TV cart, like they used to wheel in when we were in school, you know? There's a TV on it, and he had 87 and then 24.
Oh
And he
my
left
goodness.
room for more.
Oh my
It's pretty
goodness.
awesome.
Are you afraid of it? Oh, okay. Where's the DC?
Yeah,
With, over there.
In the corner?
it's real
Okay.
crowded when everybody.
Okay. Yeah, I'm concerned. No. I reckon we could screw. Yeah, y'all go. Yeah, you can
All right,
screw.
we're ready to start back. Thank you. Sorry. No, you're okay. Faster coffee. We need to.
Did you need cream cheese? Take it back.
No. Okay, next up is Jasper Landing, owner Montvale Partners LLC, developers Gray Hill Development LLC, and the surveyors Piedmont Land Design. Location is 3457 Lassiter Road in the Elevation Township, served by Wynn Fire District and 5210 Rescue Squad. It's 48.42 acres, 40 lots proposed. Johnston County Public Water, individual septic, traffic counts not available for that portion of Lassiter Road. It does not appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as needing improvement.
All right, any questions of staff? Thank you, sir. Who'd like to be heard on behalf of Jasper Landing? Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Gray Berry. I live at 516 Northeast Street in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I am representing the developer Gray Hill Development. Pardon me, I was a little more chipper when I got here a few hours ago.
We understand.
Exciting night. But Jasper Landing is a project we came across through a family friend. I back up. Gray Hill Development is a small family-owned residential development company out of Raleigh. We have various projects throughout the greater Raleigh Triangle area, Zebulon, Wilson, Cary, Chapel Hill, and we truly pride ourselves on first-class communities. But like I said, this was a family friend who we acquired this property from, and they had this property in their family for over 100 years. And the name actually came from the old owners, and Jasper was the original patriarch of the family who landed on this farm over 100 years ago. So that's just a fun little factoid. But I say that just to try to ensure that, there's been a lot of talk tonight about developers leaving communities high and dry, and we definitely don't do that. We never have done that, and we don't intend to ever do that. So that's what we got. It's 40 lots on a little over 40 acres. The mail kiosk is not shown currently, but if you can see the little wet area and the gap in between the triangle lot, that's where the mail kiosk will go. We got that comment in TRC. We have had a fire flow test done, and the water is marginal, so we won't be installing fire hydrants. We will be doing the T's and crosses, so once the water pressure gets to be adequate, and also bonding the fire hydrants, so once it's adequate, the county or fire department can come in and install those. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions you all have.
It shows a mail kiosk.
Yeah, your
on-
mail kiosk is shown.
Oh,
on
wonderful.
page
Maybe-
3. Yeah.
You got a good
it's shown.
engineer.
I will mention that this is Johnston County, by the way.
What did I say?
Johnson.
I'm sorry. Like I said, I had more energy 2 hours ago.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
I didn't see a preliminary typical of the street. I guess they're paved. Shoulder section.
I'm sorry?
Are they paved
The street?
roadways?
Yes, they will be paved, the DOT standards. And our intention is to turn these streets over, petition DOT and turn them over once the community's built out.
Very good.
Other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Anyone else like? I'm sorry, I was a little too quick on the draw there.
Sorry. For the future development, is that, I guess how future.
Lots.
Like
Yeah, so that's
lots
kind
or-
of going to be a phase 2 potentially. We're still working through that with our soil consultants and our engineer.
It just looked like it might be kind of wet, so.
It could potentially be another 20 lots, but we weren't ready to make that decision yet, so we wanted a little more time, but also wanted to get the project moving, so that's kind of why we're phasing it this way.
Okay, understood.
Thank y'all.
I appreciate the stub out though.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to Jasper Landing? Yes, ma'am. Give us your name and address, please.
Denise Guadalupe, 143 Sonoma Street. I just want to say I'm not against any development or this one. I just wanted to note that on October 25th of 2003, our fence was damaged. We are at the very entrance of the development. It was also a new development, so we thought that was also our same builder that was doing some work, and then it wasn't until recently when I received a letter, or I heard it on the news, that I realized it was a new development going on in the back. And I also see that part of our land is part of the roadway, the entrance, and I'm just concerned about that damage that we currently have and the start of construction. There'll be more big trucks coming in and out, and our fence is just a fence that was put up by the builder, but we are responsible for it now, and it's just a wooden fence, so I'm wondering what will happen to any further damage.
Okay. This proposed subdivision, have you seen the site plan map? Yeah. So this subdivision will not access through your subdivision, so there really shouldn't be any construction traffic or certainly not any future homeowner traffic going through your subdivision.
No, our house is the corner lot, the back, our
What's your
backyard,
address?
143.
Sonoma?
Yes.
143.
She backs up to the entrance.
Yeah,
One of those cul-de-sac lots. But when it's surveyed, the part that they own up to the highway, your fence should be off of that anyway.
Okay.
But the trucks, it was so narrow, I guess, and with a really big truck, it really damaged.
Oh, it hit the fence, okay.
It broke it off, it broke it out.
It looks like there's a little path there now on the other side of your fence. Maybe they access this land through a path. You can't really see it on that arrow. I'm looking at it on Google. Is that where the trucks are turning into?
In the back.
Okay. Yeah, we'll ask the applicant, but I'm assuming that path's probably going to be widened for future construction traffic. But we'll ask for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to Jasper Landing? Yeah, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I can answer that question. This aerial's old. That dirt path has actually been diverted around the lots onto the piece of property that we access Lassiter Road on. And the landowner, that we purchased this property from, when they were developing, I believe it's Gregory Ridge, is that the name of the subdivision? They worked out a deal to put up a wooden fence, basically, kind of from that existing path all to wrap around just as a little privacy barrier. And I have been out there, noticed the fence was down, and I did think it was one of us, but the current landowner, he's not ready. Like I said, it's a family friend, so he's still currently living on the property, and he never said anything to me about the fence, we damaging the fence. But it's, your typical kind of stick opaque fence, and it's just one section, so if a condition to just fix that fence, we'd be happy to do that.
We'll let y'all work that
Yeah,
out from a fence standpoint.
This is news to me, but I did know the fence.
Thank you. All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendations, preliminary approval, subject to the conditions and requirements in the staff report.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Ms. Holmes, second by Mr. Sasser. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next is Van Track, Earpsboro Road.
Yes, this is, the owner is Joseph and Jaretta Van, developers Creedmoor Properties LLC, and surveyors Adams and Hodge Engineering. It's 2655 Earpsboro Road in O'Neill's Township, served by Corinth Holders Fire, Clayton Rescue. 163.67 acres, 96 lots proposed. Johnston County Public Water, individual septic. Traffic count is 1,000 vehicles per day for this section of Earpsboro Road, and that was in 2021 at that count. This portion of Earpsboro Road appears on the Comprehensive Transportation Plan as a major thoroughfare needing improvement. This parcel is within the environmentally sensitive area. However, no floodplain appears on the parcel. A reverse frontage buffer is required for all lots backing up to Earpsboro Road.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Thank you. Like to be heard on behalf of Earpsboro Road. A little later than 6:30.
Man, no joke.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good. Hope it's smooth from this point forward.
There you go.
Good evening. I'm Donnie Adams from Adams and Hodge Engineering, 314 East Main Street in Clayton. And my firm are acting as the planners and engineers on this project. Todd, thanks for the presentation and putting this forward. I'll be brief. As you can see, we're on about 164 acres. We're proposing 96 lots. That's around just less than 0.6 units to the acre. We have our street connection lined up with the existing state road on the other side of Earpsboro Road, Brett Road's lined up there. We've confirmed our site distance, no issue meeting DOT standards there. Our subdivision, should we get approved here tonight, we'll move forward with all of our construction drawings being meeting the standards of NCDOT, Johnston County Utilities for erosion control, stormwater. Back to preliminary stuff. S&EC is the environmental consultant on this. They've performed their on-site soils work for septic as well as preliminary work on streams and wetlands, and we've designed according to that information. We have, not to steal anybody's thunder, but we have a couple of CBUs out there set aside on lots 10 and lots 37. And with that being said, I'll open the floor to any questions you guys may have. Happy to answer them.
Is this a pond that we're looking at on the property?
Yes, it is. It is a pond. It's dried, basically. I don't know if the dam's been broken on or not. But,
Okay.
yep. So we've got that set aside in open space.
Okay, that was.
Same wavelength.
Is there any NCDOT preliminary recommendations yet?
NCDOT, so they did review the information through the TRC. You can see in the standards there were no recommendations. We did separately and independently reach out to NCDOT to confirm location and the number of lots that we're proposing, just to make sure what was going on or what their anticipation would be. So at this point, they are not requiring or anticipating any improvements.
I believe there's a four-way stop going in at Earpsboro in 96. I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty busy.
I say that's a busy road.
Pretty busy out there.
Yeah.
I was wondering if they had recommended any turn lanes.
Well, that's what I was very surprised it's not.
Yeah.
Really.
Traffic count that they gave to us was 1,100, a little bit more than what we showed in here, but I'm not sure the date when that was done.
Yeah, and that At 96, on 39 right there, Earlsboro, there's just not a lot of room. And I
No.
think that's why they pulled the four-way stop, makes more sense.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to do a turn.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to the Earlsboro Road subdivision? All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendation is preliminary approval, subject to the conditions and requirements in staff report.
I would just also like to note again, the school capacity and enrollment numbers that are on the packet.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Little, second by Mr. Lovering. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next we'll begin the rezoning portion of tonight's meeting. Please note that the planning board serves as a advisory board to the Board of County Commissioners, so our votes will indicate a recommendation to the county commissioners for approval or denial. All of these rezoning cases will be heard at the May 6th Commissioners meeting. So if you are here tonight for any of the rezoning cases, if you're the applicant, please make sure you're there. If you have questions about it or in opposition to, you may also want to note that date on your calendar, May 6th. So our first case is case 24-05.
Yes, sir. This is a conditional zoning request, petition to rezone .424 acres of a 1.82 acre tract located at 409 David Road in the Wilders Township from AR to general business conditional zoning. Owner and applicants James and Anita Yeager. Conditional zoning request agricultural and lawn equipment repair. Utilities and services are provided by Northside Fire District and Clayton Rescue Squad. Existing land use zone agriculture residential and used for those purposes, as well as for that shouldn't be commercial vehicle, but that should be as well as for lawn equipment repair. It's zoned AR and used for surrounding land use is zoned AR and used for those purposes. There are several businesses on this road that have zoning violations. Traffic count for this portion of David Road is not available, and it does not appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as needing improvement. Is located within a low-density residential future land use place type on the county's envisioned Johnston comprehensive land use plan. There were 6 notices sent out. The property came in as a zoning violation to our office in June of 2023, along with several other properties on the road, on this road, for the violation of operating a commercial business in an agriculture residential zoning district. You will remember from a couple of months ago, this is right next door to one we had before you 2 months ago.
This one's at the back of the subdivision, isn't it?
That's correct. It's on the cul-de-sac again.
Okay. Any questions of staff? All right, who'd like to be heard on behalf of case 24-05? Thank you for your patience.
Long day. I'm Anita Yeager. I live at 409 David Road. Sorry my husband couldn't be here, James Yeager. He's with his father, who's terminally ill. We operate small business. We do landscape equipment. We help maintain the road. We do contracts for Lowe's, which we do most of their products at the store. Home Depot, we do most of their products at the store, and Tractor Supply. We do most of their products at the store. So we do bring some stuff in to be worked there at the shop. Try to keep everything enclosed, out of sight. And if you have any questions, I can try to answer anything you have.
So, help me understand, so I've got the site plan. Talk me through what's going to happen beyond what's already out there now, from a fencing standpoint, from buildings, all of that, if you don't mind.
put a fence up in front of the shop, trees to keep everything out of view.
Okay.
Everything else is behind the home where it's out of sight. Us and the other few businesses, we maintain the road for all the whole neighborhood.
So the road's private?
Yes,
Okay.
road is private.
And you said you do most of your repair work at the other businesses?
Yes, we've sort of tailored our business that way so that we don't have to bring as many products to our residents. And we do work for Home Depot, Lowe's, Tractor Supply.
And so it looks like there's a lot of equipment things out in front of the building now, in front of the house, so all that gets moved behind the?
Yes.
Okay. Have you reviewed the conditions that are in the staff report? And are you in agreement with all of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Hours of operation?
Yeah, that's what I'm, Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Monday through Friday. We do not work weekends. We have grandkids, and that's where our time goes.
Okay. Currently it reads 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday. Do you?
9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
All right, so ask for more than what you want, so that you don't get.
No, I don't want to be after 5 p.m., okay?
So you want Monday through Friday,
9 to 5.
Okay.
I'm retiring from my permanent job in November, okay?
Okay.
Fire hydrant on that road.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The map that we're looking at is surveying off a .424 acre, but it says preliminary not for sales, recording, or conveyance. So is it going to come separated from lot 26 or not? No? Oh, it's not, okay.
I think that, what are you talking about? This?
No, it would just be split zoned.
It's a split zone, it'll become a zoning parcel, but not an actual tax bill.
Oh.
Oh. Sorry. I'm glad you asked. All right, any other questions, Dave? Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to case 24-05? Yes, sir. Give us your name and address, please.
Board members, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Chuck Wesley. I spoke to most of you last time I was here. I reside at the back end of 176 and 178 Deer Tracks Drive is my address, but I border the back of the Yeager's property. And I can just want to attest to the fact that they're not good neighbors, they're outstanding neighbors. Before I even knew, I knew that there were issues, like I said before, David Road. I use it, my grandchildren use it, play, you know, with the other kids and so forth. But I can tell you that I saw Jim on Yeager many times in his own personal tractor cutting people's yards along the road. Over 13 years I've witnessed that. And in addition, he drives a tractor and he works the road. Now, it was an issue, like I say, I knew it was an issue with the HOA, it always had been, but that's not why I'm here. I'm just saying that he stepped up when many did not, and still does. That's why I'm here. I've been in this building all day today, but I'm here for Jim and Anita because they're that good.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you hanging with us.
Thank you.
There is an HOA?
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to case 24-05? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Gabby Rubio, and I am at 416 David Road, which is the parcel adjacent to Chuck's and Jim and Anita Yeager. I don't know if you can see it. Yes, that one. So I am also here representing Edgar Mendez Cordova. which is the owner of, and my partner, and is the owner of this parcel. Anita didn't mention this, but she's one of her and Jim are one of the original owners from this neighborhood. So they've lived here for over 30 years, and they've had their business for over 15 years. Like Chuck said, we also have no issues with them, and so we are here to support their petition to rezone part of their land. I also want to reiterate what Chuck said, that most of the businesses are the ones who maintain the road. So since it's a private road, because I know that was an issue with the some of the staff in the planning department that they brought up. But what else do I want to say? But yeah, we have no complaints, and so we try to stick together as a community. And the other thing that I did want to mention was that from what we know, is that the original complaint came from one of the neighbors that no longer lives in the neighborhood, and the person or the business who was there who caused a lot of inconveniences at 407, they're no longer there. So I wanted to point that out too. And Ms. Debbie, I think last time she asked if there was any covenants, and from what we can tell from our last meeting on March 4th, there are no covenants, so there's no issues with that. And then if you have any questions, I can answer them.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Anyone else? All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendations was denial based on the inconsistency with the comprehensive land use plan and continued violation of the property and the condition of David Road.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Ms. Holmes, second by Mr. Little. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. All right, we have 2 opposed. This will go forward to the...
Which 2?
All right, we'll do hands for in favor of. All right, and opposed? Okay, thank you. That'll go forward to the Board of County Commissioners as a recommendation for approval. All right, rezoning case.
This is actually a text amendment case is up next. And you'll see it ties into the last modification.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what you have before you, this is a text amendment that was presented to a petition for a text amendment presented to planning staff. And this involves an amendment to our table of uses in 14-90, which is the commercial table of commercial uses. So the applicant or the petitioner has requested that there be some amendments to the industrial 2 classification to allow for specific uses. The application actually originally stated in the application that they were requesting that a dance studio and gymnastics studio, as well as a print and publish and everything comes along with that in that classification, and indoor, outdoor recreation be added. They requested in the petition to be added to that table as a conditional, only through conditional zoning. It would not be permitted by right or by special use, but only through conditional zoning. With that, we had conversations with representatives of the applicant or the petitioner, and obviously representing that petitioner or representing the property owner. And we had believed we had a agreement that it would be only indoor recreation, not an outdoor recreation as well. So in staff recommendation on this particular text amendment would be to recommend approval with the exception of outdoor outdoor recreation. If you may recall, this property is at 6100 NC 42. The project or the parcel involved or property involved is at 6100 NC 42 West. This was a Merit Properties project, which is essentially a commercial and industrial flex facility, which is in the final stages or in the rear stages of construction. So they are under, I believe, are under lease now, beginning to go under lease, and staff does recommend approval with the exception of outdoor recreation. Obviously, there will be a subsequent request following this that we'll need to treat independently and separately with regard to modifying their conditional zoning and those conditions as far as the uses are concerned. Answer any questions you may have.
What would you consider outdoor recreation, and where would outdoor recreation currently fit in our table of uses?
That was my question.
So your table uses should be in your packet, but outdoor recreation is really going to fit in, well, several different areas. So it depends on, are we talking public or private?
Sure.
Typically in private situations where you have those that are going to be more a general business, community, neighborhood, or general business district. Once again, could be permitted, could be special use or conditional use. However, we have in the current table, you will see, and I believe it is on page 14 of 16 of your agenda packet. You will see currently permitted accessory use. Outdoor recreation is permitted as an accessory use, which means limits your intensity, scale of an accessory, an outdoor accessory use. However, this is remember, this is a conditional zoning district. Conditional zoning permitted, the permitted uses are specific with regard to this particular conditional zoning. We just have concerns over recreational outdoor. It's just so broad.
Yeah.
And the property, I really don't think that was the intent. I'd be glad to let the petitioner and the representative speak to that, but I don't believe that was the intent. I believe it was more than just an error.
Okay, cool, thanks. Any questions? All right, well, ask for the petitioner, if you don't mind.
Right. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Evening. Thanks
Members
for
of the
hanging
board.
with us again.
Yeah, not a problem. Name is Greg Feldman. Address is 137 South Wilmington Street, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm with Withers Ravenel, the civil engineering and planning firm representing both the applicant and owner, Merit Properties. We have Mr. Riley Burke and Mr. Nate Robb with us this evening on behalf of the applicant and owner. I would just like to clarify one item that was brought up through conversation this evening. We did catch that outdoor recreation use was left over in this text amendment application, and of course affecting the following application that you all will hear this evening, being that of the conditional rezoning modification. And we would like to remove that outdoor recreation use from this request, as well as the next application. So essentially, this proposed text amendment is intended to allow for a wider variety of compatible uses within business and industrial flex parks. So that would be the intent of this text amendment. But of course, as Mr. Newton mentioned, the caveat being that each of these uses, if you did have another industrial 2 zone site that proposed one of them, they would of course have to go through the conditional rezoning process. Happy to answer any questions, and I think I will see you all in just a minute for the next application.
Yeah, I would say that anybody that's got kids that have been to a birthday party lately have probably been to one of these in a space like this. So it's
sir.
familiar to a few of us.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks, sir.
All right.
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to this text amendment? Yes, sir.
Wayne Luter Jr., my mother and I were next door to this venture.
Okay.
And,
Give us your address, please.
6200 NC 42.
Cool, thank you.
And we've lost a year of sleep while we're being constructed so far. The entrance drive is right beside our property line. We were thinking that maybe it'd be in the middle, but my mother not being that familiar with what was going to be going on. I've been on job sites for 30 years, but you know, every morning she's awakened by a dump truck or a beep beep or something or another. So it was concerning when we saw that, you know, it was going to be a outside requested as well as but, I didn't want any, if so, no it wasn't basketball or soccer or pickleball but if that's been withdrawn, is that what we're saying, I
Yes, sir.
think?
Yeah, they're taking
So-
that portion out of the request.
Okay, everything's gonna probably be indoor?
Yes, sir. All the remaining uses in this will be indoor.
Okay, cool. Well, that was it. As long as they withdrew that, I mean, that was our biggest concern.
Thank you, and we appreciate you staying late with us as well.
Yeah.
All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendation as it relates to text amendment 24-01 is approval with the amending that petition to exclude outdoor recreation.
Do we need to state that in the motion?
We will, please.
I make a motion to approve with the omission of the outdoor recreation.
One second.
All right, motion to approve by Ms. Holmes, second by Ms. Howard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that'll go forward as a recommendation for approval. I think our last item this evening.
Okay, this is conditional zoning case 21-23 MOD for modification. It's to modify the original conditional zoning of the property at 6100 NC Highway 42 in Cleveland Township from I-2 conditional zoning district. It's going to stay the same, but just also allow for additional uses. The owner and applicant was Merit NCFTI LLC. The conditional zoning request is now to add dance studio, gymnastics, printing, production, publishing, and indoor recreation to the previously approved uses, so outdoor would not be considered. Served by Macklemore Fire and CNS Rescue, as currently zoned I-2 conditional zoning. Traffic count for this portion of Highway 42 is 19,500, and that was in 2022. It appears as needing improvement. It's in a regional mixed-use place type. And there were 22 notices sent out to adjoining property owners.
Thank you, sir. Will you need in the motion for this one as well to
The omission of outdoor?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, great, thanks. We'll hear from the applicant.
Long time no see.
It has been a little while. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As staff noted, the second of these applications would be to modify the previously approved conditional rezoning for the property located at 6100 North Carolina Highway 42 West. Without being long-winded, the site totals approximately 20 acres, is the home to 42 Crossing, a three-building industrial flex site totaling approximately 200,000 square feet. And again, the purpose of this text amendment, as well as the conditional rezoning application, would be to allow these uses that are compatible within sites similar to this one. And of course, happy to answer any questions that the board may have of me at this time.
You read and are good with all the zoning conditions?
Yes, sir. All those conditions will remain from the previously approved.
Okay, great, thank you. Questions? Thank you, sir.
All right.
Anyone else?
Thank you all.
All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendation was the approval with the omission of the outdoor recreation.
I make a motion to approve with the omission of outdoor recreation.
Motion to approve by Ms. Holmes, a second by Ms. Howard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Go forward as a recommendation of approval. Any written decisions?
There was no.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, yeah, last time it was super
All right.
quick. We made that.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Thank y'all.
I made up for it this week.